right, buckle up for this deep dive because this one, it takes a turn I wasn't really expecting. Yeah, we're
Oh,
going deep into this text file, just titled Nunensi el respondas a los muertos.txt,
hmm.
which, for anyone who doesn't speak Spanish, that's never answer the dead.
Right.
I mean, just that title, right?
Yeah.
Sets the mood pretty quick.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And finding it like this, just out there as a raw text file, like it's some kind of digital message in a bottle, you know what I mean?
Like,
Makes it even creepier.
it really does. It's like stumbling onto something you weren't supposed to see.
Yeah.
And the story itself, it starts out pretty normal. It's about this guy, Felipe, who has to go stay with his cousins after his aunt dies.
Okay.
But then it takes this sharp turn into creepy town.
So it's that kind of story, huh? Where it just pulls the rug out from under you. Love those.
Exactly. The author kind of lures you in with this false sense of security.
And then, bam.
Bam. Exactly. So Felipe ends up at his cousin's grandmother's house. And let me tell you, this place sounds straight out of a horror movie. Like massive old wooden house, creaking floorboards, you know, the type.
Oh, yeah, the classic haunted house vibes for sure. The setting can be like another character, adds to the whole atmosphere of the story.
Definitely. It's like the house itself is part of the story, like it's watching everything unfold. And then, to make things even creepier, Felipe's oldest cousin gives him this warning.
Oh, what was it?
It's like, don't answer them. Don't answer the voices. It's going to talk to you from under the bed.
Whoa, okay. That's pretty specific, isn't it? Like, not just don't talk to ghosts, but it's gonna be under your bed.
I know, right? Talk about nightmare fuel. And of course, at first, Felipe is like, shh, yeah, right, you're just messing with me.
Classic horror movie mistake. Never ignore the creepy warnings.
Right. Never ignore the warnings. So naturally what happens? Felipe starts hearing things.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, like a voice calling his name while he sleeps.
No way. That's terrifying.
Totally terrifying.
Yeah.
And then, get this, the voice he's hearing. It's his dead mother.
Hold on, his mom. That's messed up.
Right. I mean, talk about twisting the knife. The one person who should represent comfort and safety, and now she's the source of his nightmares.
Yeah, that's heavy. The author is definitely playing with some deep-seated fears there, like turning the familiar into something frightening.
It's like they're tapping into that primal fear we all have of like losing the people we love and then having them come back in some twisted way.
Exactly. And it gets even more complicated because we find out Felipe had a really complicated relationship with his mother. He was her sole caregiver after she became paralyzed. And, well, let's just say it wasn't always easy.
Yeah, like it hints that he had these, conflicting emotions, resentment, guilt, maybe even wishing she were gone at times.
Oof, that adds a whole other layer to the story.
It really does. Suddenly, it's not just about ghosts and scary voices. It's about all these heavy emotions like grief and guilt and the weight of family secrets. And then the voice actually talks to Felipe.
What does it say?
It says, Felipe, I forgive you. You have nothing to forgive. You wished for me to die. But I forgive you. Everything is okay.
Whoa, okay, that's not your typical boo kind of ghost story. That's some deep psychological stuff right there.
It's like the voice is using his guilt against him.
Yeah, and this forgiveness, it's almost too easy, too readily given. Like, it's almost more disturbing than if the voice had been angry or vengeful.
And that's exactly what makes this story so creepy. It's not just jump scares and spooky sounds. It's this, like, psychological horror that gets under your skin and makes you question everything. And then, get this, Felipe, he's driven by some unknown force to reach under the bed.
I mean, come on. Reaching under the bed. Talk about a recipe for disaster. It's like the author knows exactly how to push our buttons, like they're reaching into our deepest fears and pulling them out one by one.
Right. And you just know something awful is about to happen.
Yeah.
But you can't stop reading, can you? You just got to know what's under there.
Exactly. And what Felipe finds there is just pure nightmare fuel.
It's seriously messed up. He describes this cold, rough hand, like a dead hand, grabbing his...
That image, the coldness, the roughness, the author doesn't hold back, do they?
Not at all. It's so vivid, so disturbing. And then a voice, his mother's voice, but distorted, like it's coming through a broken speaker, whispers, "Forgive me, Felipe. Forgive me."
It's like whatever's under that bed is wearing his mother's voice like a mask.
Exactly. It's not really her, is it?
Mm-hmm.
It's something else, something pretending to be her, using her voice to manipulate him.
That's so creepy. And the way it's begging for forgiveness, it's almost like it's trying to trap him, to bind him to the spirit world through this shared guilt.
Like it needs his forgiveness to cross over or something. I don't know, it's all so unsettling. And Felipe, poor guy, He freaks out, he's trying to pull away, but the voice is getting more intense, more desperate.
Oh man, I bet. So what happens? Does he get away?
He does, eventually. He manages to tear himself free, and he runs out of the room. Like right as the sun is coming up, he ends up in the kitchen with his cousin's grandmother, Mama Carmen.
Ah, Mama Carmen. Now she's an interesting character. What's her take on all this?
Well, you'd think she'd be freaked out, right?
Yeah.
But she's totally calm. She basically says Felipe was just having a bad dream, like hallucinations brought on by all the stress of the funeral and everything.
Wow, okay, that's a pretty different reaction than you'd expect. Almost like she's seen it all before, or like she knows something we don't.
I know, right? It's almost like she's deliberately downplaying the whole thing. And then she suggests maybe, just maybe, the cousins made up the whole voices under the bed thing as a prank.
Hold on, a prank to scare Felipe.
Yeah, like they wanted the room he was in for themselves. So they told him about the voices to freak him out.
So now we have a whole new layer to this thing. Is it supernatural or is it just some messed up family drama?
Exactly. And that's what makes this story so brilliant. It keeps you guessing. You don't know what to believe. Was it all in Felipe's head, or was there something really there under that bed?
The author leaves that up to us to decide.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so effective. It's like, even if we decide it was all just a prank, we still have that image of the cold, dead hand and that voice pleading for forgiveness.
Yeah.
It sticks with you,
It definitely sticks with you. It makes you question your own perceptions, Like, what if something like that happened to us? Would we believe it, or would we convince ourselves it was just a dream?
It makes you realize how fragile our sense of reality really is and how easily it can be manipulated, especially when we're dealing with grief and guilt and fear.
And let's not forget the role technology plays in all of this. I mean, finding this story as a text file out there in the digital void, it adds this whole other level of creepiness.
Right, like who wrote it? Where did it come from? Is it some kind of digital ghost story passed around online like a modern-day urban legend?
It makes you wonder if maybe the internet itself is haunted. Like maybe there are digital ghosts lurking in the shadows of the web, waiting to whisper their stories to anyone who's willing to listen.
In this story, Nunca el respondas a los muertos. Maybe it's a warning.
A warning about what?
About the dangers of engaging with the unknown, whether it's in the physical world or the digital world. Like maybe some things are best left undisturbed.
Yeah, maybe some doors are better left closed.
But, even with all the creepiness, there's something about this story that really makes you think.
What's that?
Well, it makes you think about guilt and forgiveness and the complicated relationships we have with the people we love, especially after they're gone.
Absolutely. At its heart, this story is about the human condition, about the things we carry with us, the burdens we bear, and the ways in which we seek redemption.
And it forces us to confront our own fears. Like, what are we most afraid of? Is it the ghosts themselves, or is it the darkness within ourselves?
Maybe the real monsters aren't the ones lurking under our beds, but the ones lurking in our own hearts.
And maybe the bravest thing we can do is face those monsters, to acknowledge them, and to find a way to forgive ourselves.
Because sometimes the only way to silence the voices is to find peace within ourselves.
You know what gets me about this story? It's that title, Nunca les respondas a los muertos. Like, it's not even a suggestion, it's a straight-up command, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not messing around.
And it makes me wonder, what if it's not just about ghosts? What if it's a warning about engaging with anything that's, like, outside our normal realm of experience?
That's interesting. You're thinking like maybe by acknowledging those things, those voices, whatever they are, we're giving them power.
Exactly. Like maybe ignoring them is a way of protecting ourselves.
It's like, don't feed the trolls, but on a supernatural level.
Right. And maybe that's why Felipe's experience was so terrifying. He answered, he reached out, and whatever was under that bed, it latched onto him.
And it played on his guilt, too. Like, maybe if he hadn't felt so guilty about his mother, it wouldn't have had the same hold over him.
Maybe. And that brings me back to Mama Carmen. Maybe she knew all this. Maybe that's why she was so quick to dismiss it as a prank.
You're thinking she was trying to protect him?
Yeah, like maybe she understood the power of belief and how easily our minds can trick us, especially when we're dealing with grief and fear. So she gave him a different story to believe in, something that would help him break free from that grip of fear.
It's like she was performing a kind of mental exorcism, using logic and reason to cast out the demons.
And that makes you think, doesn't it? about all the ways we try to make sense of the world around us, and how sometimes the stories we tell ourselves can be just as powerful as any reality.
Especially in the digital age where we're constantly bombarded with information and it's hard to tell what's real and what's not.
Exactly. Like with this story, Nunca les pondas a los muertos. Is it real? Is it fiction? Is it some kind of digital urban legend? We don't know.
And maybe that's the point. Maybe the real horror is the uncertainty, the not knowing. It leaves us questioning everything, even our own sanity.
Which brings us back to that warning. Nunca les pondas a los muertos. Maybe it's not just about ghosts. Maybe it's about being careful what we choose to believe, what voices we choose to listen to, and what doors we choose to open.
Because some doors, once opened, can't be closed again.
And some voices, once heard, can never be silenced. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I gotta ask, what do you think? What's the takeaway for you?
For me, it's about recognizing the power of our own minds and how easily they can be manipulated by fear and guilt.
And it's about being mindful of the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we choose to believe. Because sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we create in our own heads.
And sometimes the bravest thing we can do is to simply turn away from the darkness and choose to focus on the light.
Well said. And on that note, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the unsettling world of Nunca le respondas a los muertos. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and most importantly, sweet dreams.
If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into more cases like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video if you found the story compelling, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in true crime and mysteries. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest content and join a growing community of curious minds exploring the most fascinating cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything.